Good evening and welcome all. In today's December edition, let us discuss on how to create or craft a resume after a layoff. What is that? What are the things that are considered? What are the do's and don'ts? And along with our today's session's participants, we would also like to consider certain preparation tips, which would be valuable to our viewers. This is, yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah, go ahead. What will be your first question, Ashwini?
So, Uh, firstly, I would like to thank you all for joining today. And here we start. Generally, everyone tend to dust off their previous CV and then rush to apply to the new jobs or probably the ones that are currently being hired onto the job portals or something, etc. And they would just try to have a glance at the previous CV or resume and then apply directly to the positions which they feel are is they find if they find a suitable skill set or if they find that they can do that job based on the job description because probably it for some due to the commitments and all it would be the dire need to make sure that they get onto the job or probably like a hop on from one to the other. So without this hopping off from one job to the other job, rather I would want to talk about in our today's session as to how could one make a meaningful purpose or how could one have the job satisfaction from after a layoff to the new job that they would want to look up to. So a relook on the previous CV and the previous experience would definitely help an individual to think and look forward by probably looking at the topics that we would discuss today.
Okay. So, yeah, you want to, Ravi sir, you want to go ahead and share your thoughts on this one? Like, should people do a retrospection before applying for jobs left, right, and center, or what's your take?
Yeah, I think in most of the cases, what will happen is that assumptions and presumptions are very high. When layoff occurred, and when they got to start again for the search of a suitable career, opening and all, basically without any assumptions and presumptions, with an open mind, they should be able to start the search. That is the fundamental point. Most important is that. Usually, in most of the cases, what will happen is that we'll get stopped by. Instead, having of that with a fresh perspective and that vigor and vitality will not be there the way how it used to be there earlier, but still without any assumptions and presumptions, with a block free mind, with an open mind, should be able to start. That is what the
Hmm.
first and fundamental principle what it has to be in the back of the mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agree. Probably when you say an open mind, I would say with the changing technology and the changing environment everywhere, everybody should be open to understand the change and probably upskill themselves, to compete in the market.
Yeah, of course. Openness in terms of what I mean is that not only the, sometimes at times it may be the applicability for the functionality, maybe sometimes it may be applicability for the vertical, maybe the kind of an industry, or maybe sometimes it is a geographical, barrier what it could be, or sometimes it may be, it can be anything like, within the purview of that. They should be open for all. It is not that only for one. It is need not be. Sometimes what will happen is that a person who serves for only the IT industry, you look at only in that IT industry, probably that sometimes it may require to redefine it. The IT, the segment will be there in other industries, like, so probably that makes lots of difference in fact. So that is what I
True,
mean.
true.
Yeah. So I also concur with you. First of all, people should not get desperate the moment layoff has happened and all. I know there will be a lot of financial commitments, personal commitments, and all, but take a pause. Why this has happened and all, it's okay, and maybe don't take it too personal because industry is very fragile, as each one of us is aware, and we need not think that it is end of the world and all, right? So I I would like to make one statement here. I was interviewing one of my friends, Roshni Baronia, on the podcast, and she's a sales mentor, one of the very few sales mentors, especially from the diversity in across India and all. And she runs her own podcast. So what she said is NO, no stands for next opportunity, right? So, but many a times people get so desperate, and they also get into depressive state of mind, thinking about why it has happened to me, but not to my peers, or why it has happened to me because I'm already undergoing so many different troubles and all, and this is kind of another add-on trouble, which
Adding
is which is aggravating my current situation and all. But always take a pause and do some retrospection kind of thing, why this has happened. So my suggestion would be, don't blame the company first, don't blame the team and all. We have to um, do some introspection. Have we done anything which is not in line with the organization expectation, or should we be doing something different, right? That should also be taken into consideration, and that way we can be proactive, so that we don't get into similar situation elsewhere in future, right? So taking some senior mentor or coaches help, right, will also immensely help in that situation. And most importantly, do the personal introspection, and note down what kind of incidents have happened, okay, which led to this particular thing. And in case if you think there is a strong business reason, and if something was not in your control at all, then don't worry about it. If you think there is something in your control, then make sure that you don't repeat the same mistakes in future, right? So that would be my 2 cents on that particular question. And yeah, Ravi sir, you want to add anything?
Yeah, the most importantly, my addition would be that I think go with the flow. Too much
Hmm.
analysis leads to at times a paralysis. We should
Yeah,
not allow for that. That situation is that now warrants basically to have a career opportunity. That's all. The whole focus to be onto the search with a block-free mind and with openness. That is what it is. No other chick in mind, back of the mind, or no other these things. Just to go with the flow. I think that 100% will get clicking. It's
yeah,
of course, it's not the situation of, you know, if you really look at me as an example, as you're aware, Naveen,
yeah.
for the benefit of Ashwini, I just would like to share it. I'm illiterate, but illiterate in pharma, serving for pharma currently as a Vice President Corporate Affairs, Corporate Social Responsibility, and the Department of Scientific and Industrial Research. Hope it is loud and clear, basically.
mm,
Yes.
I'm a literate, but illiterate in pharma, serving for pharma, that too at the level of the vice president. With that, you can understand, like, it is only, we limit ourselves in a many dimensions. But when it comes to the, this thing, I approached the then managing director with some other, official friend, some kind of an engagement related, work and all, basically. That is nothing to do with the job and all, basically. Then he is the one who spotted, and he wanted only in certain specific role. The Department of Scientific and Industrial Research under the Ministry of Science and Technology at the Government of India, with a lots of scientists with with a great depth and dense of the technological knowledge in terms of pharmaceutical and chemical related and all that. Whereas I deal with that particular department as a entry and exit point for my group of companies. With that, you can understand, like, it is a live example, basically. What I'm telling is that out of sheer practical ground level experience, I'm just talking whatever I'm telling it to you. So that is what I hope that this suggestion of mine probably would be, worth addition as so, if you feel.
Absolutely, because definitely we can relate to the real world stories and the incidents that happened to us, and it will give us more confidence in terms of exploring new opportunities, especially during crisis and all. And one other thing, what I noticed is people get into negative mode and they lose some sort of self confidence the moment this kind of thing happens and all, right? That is where we have to really be strong enough, because I'll tell you, I have been asked to leave in one of my previous organizations, but that was purely because of business decision, and the funding of a particular program, right, was limited to that particular time, and organization wide, if you think priorities are going to change, and sometimes if you are fortunate enough, you might find internally something, and sometimes you may find internally something, but at a lower designation or a lower grade level and all, which you may not be ready to do that, right? Likewise, I've been through this kind of phase myself, and all I did was started exploring some alternate careers. Like, for example, I wanted to get into Lean Six Sigma consulting mode, and I ran a workshop for myself. And on a single day, I earned 15,000 rupees, but out of which the net take home was only 6,000 rupees, barring the training room costs and all other stuff. But at least I got a confidence saying that in case if I don't have a job, right, I have an alternate career path. And within a week's time of after running that particular paid workshop and all, I got an opportunity with the another organization which I immediately joined. And if you look at that, right, in case if I think negatively, probably I would have not done my workshop, and probably I would have not gotten into the next organization itself. I would have stopped there. But I explored both plan A, plan B, and sometimes we may have to look at plan C, plan D also. That's why whoever is watching this inner circle December meeting, my strong advice is have an alternate career option. Have especially if you are a seasoned employee with a lot of EMI commitments and all, right, never ever rely on a single source. And when I say single source of income and all, I'm not asking you to do two jobs by doing some moonlighting stuff and all, because moonlighting is not
Definitely.
legal in India, right? It
Yeah.
is not legal in India. You have to do something which doesn't impact your day job as well as your performance on your day job, right?
Yeah.
So that would be my advice.
So adding on to this, with your experiences from both of you all, like when Ravi says it, that Ravi sir says it, completely a different domain experience and a completely different background. So this is definitely helpful for all to explore opportunities that come their way, who feel they have that capability, apart from, because we have people in corporate who've worked for long and have become SMEs, and suddenly if they have to look around for a different job or something that comes their way which is not their niche or forte, then they would probably hold themselves back. But people like you would inspire them, I believe. And Naveen, yes, your experience of the sessions and all that you've conducted, the workshops, is definitely, I see it as an option for people who can, uh, they could come up in that career gap. If somebody experiences a career gap, probably they could do some freelance projects or some sessions like you just said.
Yeah, I think you can ask the same question to Kiran to seek his inputs, because he has wealth of experience, and he has been mentoring so many people who have been through the rough stage in life, and also I'm sure his inputs will be valuable.
Definitely, definitely. Hi, Kiran.
Hello, hi.
Yeah, welcome to our December's edition. And today we are discussing about how to create or craft a resume after a layoff. Like, what are the things that can be considered, and the do's and don'ts, probably, and few valuable preparation tips that would help an individual to pass through that storm, probably.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah,
Okay, awesome. So I think I don't know what all was discussed until now, but
I would.
the topmost thing, I would say, is to show how technically strong you are. And by technically strong, I don't mean it just an IT job, but it could be in any domain, right? Like, but relevant to that domain, be it a technical writer, be it a IT software developer, and somebody who's in marketing, sales, whatever. How how strongly are you portraying your experience using the SMART technique, like simple, measurable, those things, right? The other thing is, are you upskilling constantly? Is another parameter which will come really really handy. So due to whatever reasons, people can get laid off, but then when you go to a new employer for a job, You can say, hey, instead of just crying on it, I use this gap to upskill myself on XYZ. Look at some certifications, look at some courses. There is Udemy's, there is Coursera's, etc. That will really give a very positive impression about the candidate, because the first doubt, unless it's a mass layoff which is already announced that XYZ is laying off thousands, unless it is that, the first doubt that comes is, hey, what is wrong with this person? Why is this person laid off, right? So to eliminate that, and because you don't even talk to people, first your resume is the first stepping stone into the company. It is better to show how relevant you are, how you are using the gap and upskilling. I think that really is important, and definitely writing your roles and responsibilities using the SMART technique. So that way, whenever somebody looks at it, they know, okay, this guy delivered something. It's not that, hey, I worked on XYZ project with XYZ technology or XYZ functional knowledge. That doesn't mean anything to anybody. Instead, I worked on, let's say, a sales team, and I was able to get leads worth of 100 million, and out of which about 50 million got converted, and my personal sale was 5 million. If we can write it in this way, I
Numbers,
think
yeah.
it will really add a lot of value. I think these two are top for me.
Definitely, yes. Numbers will add an advantage as to how could one, you know, how could one win, or what all they've achieved would definitely show that. And when you say that to list out the resume, the job roles and responsibility in a smart way, so probably we have many tailor-made resumes, free templates that are available, which aligns the industry best practices as well. So probably usage of that in case one would want to take some professional advice kind, or a nice layout which briefs it all would definitely help.
Absolutely. And then honesty is very, very important, right? If there was a big gap, it is better to say there is a gap, instead of trying to bridge it with some fictitious thing, because you'll always get caught. People are smart who are interviewing, and so you'll always get caught. Just be honest. I think that is the biggest thing that I would say.
Yep. Yeah, we were discussing about when you said about honesty with the gaps. Yeah, we were discussing about how to handle the career gap as well with the online certification courses or the freelance projects, etc.
Yeah, with the freelance projects, I think that's a great point, right? Because the other thing is, you don't really have to wait for anybody to give you a project in these days. You can simply go. There are different resources on the internet like Kaggles and others, and if you look at YouTube, what people are doing. They are doing some wonderful things, right? Somebody's just created a course around, like in my area, data analytics, data engineering. He simply conceptualized the whole thing. He created how, from where you pick the data, how you put the data using what technologies, and after that how you do analytics on the data. This particular young fellow did a complete course on it and displayed it. So thereby, people who look at it already know that he's a strong person in that domain. So that's another creative way of doing things. It need not just sit and put some code and write it in your resume. You might as well look at doing some you tell people what you know through a YouTube video or something, right? That's another creative way to do these days.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So, what will be your next question, Ashwini?
So probably I would want us to talk about the emotions, like, when we say about analyzing the emotions of the individual. So just that I'm being laid off. So my emotions would definitely be low, no doubt about that, because what next, how, where, and all. n number of questions would shoot in my mind. So how is that we would want to look at our emotions? And like I said, definitely about the job satisfaction, because it is an important thing for an individual's happiness. Because there's some disturbance. Am I audible?
Yeah, you're
Okay.
audible.
So it's just not about the Okay, thank you. So it's just not about the job, but the job satisfaction, where one feels comfortable. Because if I get a job in rush, then definitely in a month or two, I would be out, no doubt about that. Because if I will not be able to perform, then it would be an either way of me quitting the job or me being again moved out. So instead of rushing onto that, how is that an individual should analyze their emotions, look back at at the work experience, and determine the right direction for them. So your thoughts on this, please.
Can I on this with an example?
Definitely.
See, when I was serving as a regional sales manager for South India, based at Chennai, Hyderabad, I got to differ with the management on certain quality parameters which they are, making and supplying for the market. I was into majorly, it's into core sales position, in fact, as a regional sales manager for South India.
Mm-hmm.
So the product is that is into high-end, imported stuff, basically the tiles,
Mm-hmm.
where they import from other countries, and they fill it in the market with a very high price bracket.
Okay.
Where when it comes to the quality is concerned, there are certain issues. I raised the red flag stating that, see, it should be, they have to have a feel of, it is worth of it, and value for the money what they're investing onto that particular product should have a feel of it. It's not that just like that we can see to ensure totally sealed pack in such a way for such a high price category with a disclaimer stating that we will not take back these all the things and all. Then they deferred, literally. It is a Gujarati company, typical Marwadi company.
Mm-hmm.
They totally deferred, stating that we should follow just what company says. I said we are ready to follow and adhere, but not in an unethical way. They strongly objected. Basically, my points and all. It has occurred in a open sales conference, basically. I said, then it is your cup of tea. Then it is a call for you to take a call, because it is not my cup of tea, definitely. Then probably I think it is not the place where I can serve. I came out within no time. Trust me, without any, it's not that I'm a monk to have a zero emotions and all, right? But I made an attempt probably in a span of about 35 to 40 days. I got selected as a general manager, that too in a different company, basically, that is into a different industry. It is a innerwear hosiery garments, basically. And they chose me out of about 129 candidates, those who applied for that particular position. They have conducted about 4 rounds of interview, and they declared that I'll be the general manager for that company. Now, the point is, what I wanted to drive out here is that open to the functionality. This is a core sales here, and whereas that is a marketing, but to at the level of the general manager. The one which I was serving was as a regional sales manager for South India. So it has got its own dynamics. What I specifically tell you that emotions definitely plays major role, no doubt, but we should know how to balance it is the more important point, number one. That's what the reason when I told before our Kiran Gudimetla joins, with a, without any assumptions or presumptions, we should accept the way it is, and the way it is not, and should go with the flow. I 100% can say, as rightly Kiran told, we should be able to display and demonstrate what we are, sound in technically in terms of that particular respective domains, whatever it is. Then I think it hardly matters to get success for the finding a new career opportunity. I
Yeah.
hope I eager to listen with Others, Kiran and Naveen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so yeah. What I personally, I mean, I kind of agree totally with what Ravi Garu said, right? But on the other side, when you are told you're out of your job and your emotions are high, or you're hurtful, and then yet you have to go attend some other interview. This is what I'm thinking was your question about, right?
Right.
Yeah. So it is best not to immediately attend an interview, because after all we are humans, and the impact of the emotions, good or bad, will fall on what you are trying to deliver, right? So it is okay to take a small break, and that break could be a week, a month, or whatever works for that particular person, and use the time to do some self evaluation, self reflection. Self evaluation, not because did I do something wrong or anything, no, that is purely a management decision, but around, okay, now how do I articulate my situation and turn this into a strength, right? How do I make sure that the layoff will not be a shadow, will not be a cloud in my career? So for that, unless you're somebody is cold headed and is thinking about this in a balanced mindset, we will not be able to articulate, because that's exactly what people who are interviewing you are looking for. They need a solid candidate. They need somebody who can think through crunch situations, chaos, etc. So I strongly would spend their personal time, and then form a nice story, which is realistic, because it has to come naturally. It shouldn't be a scripted thing when you are talking about it. So I think that's very important for me, and it is absolutely okay, to feel completely lost, or like not knowing what to do, XYZ. So those emotions, as humans, we all will go through based on that point of time. But then if you give that small gap, it lets you settle down, and then I think you can uh, pull yourself up, and be able to position yourself well. That's key for me.
Yeah, I think emotions, we got to be emotionally intelligent, right? Emotional quotient is something which is measured as one of the KPIs or critical to quality while hiring candidates and all. Because the moment we get too emotional about a situation, right, that leads to loss of self confidence and all, and it will lead to negative repercussions and all. So we got to really balance our emotions. In a nutshell, that's what I would like to conclude on this question. Yeah, great points, Kiran and Ravi sir. I think I can resonate with what you guys have shared. Do you have any follow up questions?
Maybe probably I have something like I definitely agree that we should take time off in looking back at the direction to determine, what is good for us. So when we talk about, the story, like Kiran said, we have to be honest and talk about ourselves. So would want to talk about how can we perfect a professional story. So then I'm talking about the professional story because we definitely have to talk all about ourselves in the interview. So when we talk about this being very important, so I understand we do have a storytelling episode on TGV, but now that we're talking about it, a few more things about how can one add on to their experience when they talk about or the career journey, and how can they showcase their skills probably. Of course, certifications is one of the thing that
Yeah.
is definitely listed on the CV. But apart from that, what is that you can add on to the storytelling is something.
Mm. If I can start, so the focus should be on what is the job profile. What are we applying for? For example, like if you take my career, it's close to 20 years. It's about 19 plus, right? Almost 20. I've done multiple things because I've worked in a company like GE. It let me do multiple different things. I was a programmer. I was a Lean Six Sigma guy. I was a project manager. I was a program manager. I was a technology lead. Different hats I wore. But then when I look at a job, let's say as a data and analytics leader or whatever, the people that are interviewing me are more interested on what my data experience is, number one, right? So while I don't lose out on the richness of my experience, like I would as a person, should take that chance to say, hey, I come with a diverse set of experiences and breadth of experiences, which you do not want to lose. Having said that, I should put more onus and focus on how the data and analytics experience of mine has been, what were my achievements. So thereby, if you got to tweak your story accordingly, right? Like if you're applying for a technology leader, or let's say, as Mr. Ravi said, sales leader job, uh, if you have started as a call center associate and then moved into the sales, anything can happen, right? I'm just throwing an example. So while you touch upon your initial days of call center, I think your more focus should be how you excelled in a sales oriented job. So you fit your story to the job description, job profile, and not try to vomit everything about you, because that is not relevant to the other person. They're not interested in knowing 100 different things about you. They are more interested in spending time with you to understand if you are the right fit for the job that they are interviewing. So I think that balance needs to be there.
Great. I think pretty much we are covered on that question. And when it comes to the storytelling, right, authenticity plays a critical role here. Let us not try to imitate somebody else, right? And here, when it comes to storytelling, certain things have to be kept in mind. People should be able to relate to what you are telling, right? It should not be something out of the blue, which they are not aware of completely, but you can tell them. And when you are articulating those stories, again, you can smartify them, like specific, measurable, and as we were talking about, achievable and relatable, and also time bound. Likewise, the smart is applicable to the goals. When it comes to results, probably you can use star format: situation, task at hand, and what action did you take, and what results were achieved, right? So star technique can be used while telling the stories. But before that, give them a quick background in terms of what has been the situation and how your presence has turned the tables around, right? That way it will create huge impact, and probably your candidature will be considered very strong. Yep, over to you, Ashwini.
Yep. So probably, maybe a last one that, unless I again get something from your views. So when, like just Kiran said that, out of 19 to 20 years of experience, and Ravi and Naveen, all of you all carry an immense and diverse experience in your professional journey. So while wearing different hats, like you say, which is definitely, a key thing that is required at our workplace. So probably at times, when somebody applies to a specific job or, or something, few have an opinion of a tailor-made resume exclusively for that job. So, maybe I might have five skills, but if one of them is something which is an emphasizing and a core experience that this job demands, then do you think that, recustomizing or, recreating the resume in line with that particular job requisite, is that recommendable? Or do you think that let us just put across all the skills that you have and then talk about that which is being looked at the job description? Which one do you think, or would you go with?
See, I would go with a one best practice in the resume. a, a header which says relevant experience. That really lets you play, well, right? Like, so the relevant experience is itself means that you're only majorly focusing on what's relevant for the job description. So there you can focus more on the job profile, and then when you attend if you get the call and you go for a discussion, there you could actually tell them that, hey, part this is only relevant, but then this is the breadth of experience that I have. So that way you're not overloading your resume, because at any point of time, why would somebody be interested in knowing skills which are not relevant to their organization, unless it's a leadership position or something. I'm talking very specifically around mid management to lower grades, wherein it is very job specific in nature, right? So I am more concerned about hiring great talent which comes in and does the job for me, rather than looking at a leader who is versatile, in doing in managing and growing an organization. So for that kind of a profile, absolutely, the end-to-end breadth is what you will have to portray, and people will look at it. But generally, if we go by relevant experience as the title itself in your resume, and then put only what's necessary, it will help in two ways. Number one, focus on what job description wise they are asking, the experiences, and I'm matching them or not. Number two, it will help you shorten your resume. Nowadays, it's about 1 page or max 2 pages of resume, right? Like, you cannot exceed that. Nobody has time to even go through. So I would do that way.
Yeah, Ravi sir, your opinion.
I pass it to Naveen first, then last I'll.
See, this is an interesting question. In fact, we should contemplate a lot before putting something on our resume. Like, people say, you need to know each and every word of your resume and be able to speak for it at least for about 5 minutes, right? Don't put the skill set for the sake of it. Just that you are desperately looking for a job and you want to customize it by using certain keywords and all, right? We will fall into that trap, and wherein we will not have any answers to the questions related to something which some of the skills which we may not possess, right? So in my opinion, if we are at least 6 to 7, if we rate ourselves as 6 to 7 in the scale of 0 to 10 on a particular skill, right? Only then you put the skill as well as relevant keywords on your resume. If it is below 6, never ever do that, because interviewer might go to any depth in a particular topic, right? So it will be suicidal at times.
Yeah, maybe to the extent what it is required to be put as a relevant experience, and I think more that can be expressed and detailed and clarified or answered during the interview would be the ideal and the best method, because only out of interaction only the other end of the interviewer will come to know what is the kind of the skill, ability, and the knowledge what the candidate is having, whether would he be suitable or not, or what it is the status and all. So keeping that in context, it is not that in a balanced way to keep is more important than either putting it in a relevant way or otherwise to say aggressive in way. So I hope that will answer your question and all. Over to Ashwini.
Yeah. So yes, I'm good with this, and probably we have discussed good, and I do not have any particular questions unless anybody would want to add any other valuable tips for our today's edition.
I think one, I would end saying, irrespective of layoffs or whatever, we are at an age where constant upskilling and being relevant is extremely important, irrespective of your number of years of experience or your age or whatever, because unless otherwise you are relevant in this cutthroat competition, you are going to be left out, right? Um, so it's extremely important, irrespective of what the market position is, to constantly keep upskilling and be relevant. Thereby, you are always valued, and it can help in two ways. Number one, it will probably ensure you're always having a job, right? Otherwise, in worst case scenario, even if you are not having a job, if you want to venture or do your own startup, you're still relevant for that, because now you are relevant from a technology perspective or from a market domain perspective. You might use that skill to just do something, on your own. So irrespective of what the market situation is, I strongly believe and suggest people should stay relevant.
And one thing what I would like to add is just don't think or limit yourself to the current domain. Explore something which is cross-functional, as Ravi sir has suggested during the beginning, right? So we may have to expand our horizon and try to tap the connections and be positive, be optimistic, right? Then definitely things will fall in place. Never ever think negative, because everything happens for a reason. We have to move on. That's it.
Yeah, Ashwini, from the sales, marketing, and business development to like administration and corporate affairs, corporate social responsibility. Now my core activity is totally into corporate social responsibility. So with that, probably you can
Oh,
understand from swimming across the functionalities, like in a different verticals and different domains, basically.
yeah,
So
you're
that
a real example for a session.
yeah, keeping that in context, that's what the reason only I told that, with a block view mentality, like, without any assumptions and presumptions. And it will also, more importantly, it will vary from industry to industry, right? IT industry may be required to have a different skill set and domain what it is required, and whereas when it comes to manufacturing industry or the industry like pharmaceutical industry would be requiring a different kind of things and all. So keeping that in context, it has to be always upskilling and more relevant. Being relevant matters a lot. Number one. The more important aspect is that irrespective of the situation, keeping in context of enthusiasm and curiosity, that makes lots of difference. What will happen is that the moment when a kind of a layoff occurred, as you rightly said, a different emotional status will come into the picture. So that emotional balance is the key. First, most important aspect is only of that. So keeping that in context, probably it required to be customized. It required definitely, as you rightly said, to take the assistance and support of the professionals or friends, well wishers like Naveen and Kiran. Like that, should go on. So that's what it is. Thank you.
Yep. All right. Then I would want to end, Naveen. I do not have anything. And thank you all for your time today, for joining in the Guiding Voice podcast series, the Guiding Voice for a Better Future. Thank you all, and wishing you a very happy and Merry Christmas in advance.
Thank you so much, Ashwini.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Ashwini. Great job.
Thanks, everybody.
Great job.
Thank you.
I loved all the questions and the way you have steered the conversation, and it is most relevant because as we speak, right, people are saying recession is around the corner, and also definitely this conversation is going to help somebody in need. And thank you for hosting the December edition. So we'll see you in the next month's edition again. Thank you.
Definitely, my pleasure. Thank you all, and bye.
Bye.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye.
Thank you.
Right, sir. Thank you.
See you, sir. Bye.
Yeah. Bye bye.